now you're a Swami. And that's a big deal. That requires, a lifetime vows of renunciation. And I'm not sure many people know what it really takes to become a Swami and what that entails and how that even happens. Can you give us a rundown?
Yeah, it's, well, let me explain it like this. The word Swami means master. It means one who's on a mission to conquer. So what is a Swami trying to do?
Welcome to the Spiritual Lovers Podcast. We are your hosts, Roman Gelperin
and Sneha Harsh.
And we are not only enthusiasts of highly effective tools that leave a massive positive impact on a person's mind in a short amount of time, what we sometimes refer to on this podcast as spiritual lovers.
We are also romantic partners and spiritual lovers
of one another. So we have with us today Keshava Swami. A little bit about him. He is a graduate of University College London, where shortly after graduating, he went off when he was 21 to become a monk in the ISKCON tradition, where he then lived in the headquarters of ISKCON in the UK called the Bhaktivedanta Manor. In the course of doing that, he has designed many courses on Vedic theology, on lifestyle management, and spiritual self-development. And he's authored 10 books, which bring the ancient wisdom of India and Krishna worship into the modern context. In 2022, he became a Swami, which means he accepted lifetime vows of renunciation and austerity. And today, he travels around the world teaching in top universities, in Fortune 500 companies, and government organizations, and in spiritual communities. And now he has just finished his year-long program at the Harvard Divinity School, where he is a monastic fellow in the Hindu monastics program at Harvard. Did I get that all right?
Yeah, that was good. You're spot on, and really happy to be here with both of you. And thanks for doing the show, and well, thanks for being who you are. I think you guys emanate a lot of positive spiritual energy that the world needs. So thank you.
So, as a pretty high monastic in the ISKCON movement, which stands for the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, I'm not sure a lot of people are aware, what is Krishna consciousness?
Yeah, Krishna is a name for divinity. So, as you know, in practically every part of the world, there's some kind of conception of an entity or a being or a person or an energy or something beyond this world. And in every tradition, they have different names by which they designate that divinity. So in the ancient Vedic tradition, one of the names used for divinity is Krishna. And Krishna means the all-attractive one. And therefore, Krishna consciousness literally means to navigate life, to navigate all the experiences, emotions, and events of our journey in this world while being aware that there's someone and something behind and beyond all of this. And when we frame everything on that kind of background of knowing that there's a divine energy behind it all, then we're Krishna conscious.
So that's actually interesting to me. So is it not an altered state of consciousness? Do you use the term consciousness to mean like for example, super consciousness? That's like an altered state of consciousness in which your mind is in a different mode. Or does it mean you're constantly aware, you're keeping in the back of your mind the idea of divinity and Krishna? Which one is it?
Yeah, no,
both?
Thank you. Well, I think the ancient sages would say we're already in an altered state of consciousness. And Krishna consciousness or spiritual consciousness is the original consciousness. And therefore, like sometimes people think when I embark on a spiritual journey, it's like it's all new. I need to learn something new. I need to become something new. But actually, it's a process of unlearning everything that you're not. we tell people self-realization is not when there's nothing more to add, it's when there's nothing left to take away. Destructive enlightenment. So Krishna consciousness is original consciousness, it's pure consciousness, and it's consciousness in which we're aware of ourselves in the deepest way, we're aware of others in the deepest way, and we're aware of this world and this existence and this reality in the deepest way. That's basically it.
So there's a term, Christ consciousness is common, or super consciousness.
Yeah.
Are they talking about the same thing, or is Krishna consciousness a little different?
Yeah, I think all of them connote some kind of idea of consciousness in which the spiritual essence is factored in. So yeah, whether you call it super consciousness, Christ consciousness, obviously Christ, in our tradition, we understand to be an empowered representative of divinity, and therefore he embodies divinity in that sense. And so whether it's consciousness of Christ or consciousness of Krishna or consciousness of Allah, all of those are spiritual consciousness which are going to empower us to live life in the most beautiful way.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I believe learning about Krishna consciousness is great, but I also want to learn about you.
Sure.
So where is this journey starting from? Because somebody who is young, how do they even think about becoming a monk at all? So I would love to learn about your journey.
Yeah, thank you, Sneha. And obviously people ask me that question a lot.
Yeah.
What made you become a monk? And was there a turning point? Was there a moment when the light came through the window and you realized? And I think there were defining moments. But if I'm to summarize it, I would say when I was growing up, 14, 15, 16 years old, 3 things became really important to me. Number 1 was authenticity. Number 2 was answers. And number 3 was adventure. I call it the 3 A's, AAA. And I'll explain what I mean. The first thing that became really important to me was authenticity. I felt like I need to find a life in which I wake up every single morning and I feel like I'm being myself. I don't want to wake up in the morning and go out there into the world and feel like I'm wearing a mask, putting on a persona that I'm not, and living to some extent in an inauthentic way. So I was like, what life can I find in which I really feel like I'm being my real self every single day? Not just on a Saturday, not just on a Sunday, not just in the holidays, but every day. The second thing, as a kid, I was looking for was answers. All of the big questions, the existential questions. Who are we? Where did we come from? What happens after? Why do bad things happen to good people? Why does love never seem to last? And I was looking at where can I find answers? Because if you don't answer these questions first, I feel like it's very difficult to make your other decisions in life. And then the third thing I was looking for naturally was adventure. It was like, I've got this time on this planet and I want to do something fun, but also impactful, and also something that will really help make people's lives better. So these were the 3. I was not religious deeply. I was not, I didn't grow up with that kind of background, but these were the things I was looking for. And eventually, when I was 15, I read the Bhagavad Gita, and then I began my spiritual journey. And eventually I realized spirituality is going to bring me the answer to these 3 things. And eventually I realized, when I was 21, I graduated and I became a monk. I realized monastic life will give me this.
Wow.
It will give me authenticity, it will give me the answers, and it will give me adventure.
Beautiful. So it looks like you already had your purpose. As somebody who could be parents of a 15-year-old today and they go and give a Bhagavad Gita to them, I do not know if kids would take it, and even if they want to read it. So, what was happening in your parenting or your exposure to the world that really inspired you to use these 3 A's?
Well, I was fortunate not to grow up with social media, although I think social media has many beautiful advantages. But yeah, again, I would say, Sneha, I don't think I was religious, but I didn't find anything in the world that could give me those 3 A's until I came across spirituality. Yes, I could be successful in the world. Yes, I could try to be famous. Yes, I could try to be an entrepreneur and make impact. And it may kind of tick some of those boxes, maybe some adventure, maybe some authenticity, but nothing was ticking all the boxes. And so I approached the Bhagavad Gita wanting those 3 things, and it did it for me.
Wow, thank you.
And I was curious, how would you define spirituality? You said you would find these 3 things in spirituality. How would you define what that even is?
We live in a world where we have a body, we deal with a material reality, and I think spirituality is the quest of asking what's behind all of this. Where did this matter come from? Where did this body come from? Where did this world come from? Is there something behind it? See, like my logic was, how can I decide my path in life? How can I decide my path in the world if I don't understand the purpose of the world? Right. Like, if I don't understand what the purpose of this microphone is, then how can I utilize it properly? So for me, it was very logical. Like, before I make all my decisions, before I make all my dreams and desires, let me try to figure out, is there some purpose behind this? And for me, spirituality is that quest by which you ask what's behind all of this. Does all of this have a meaning? And is there some deeper purpose? That's for me what spirituality is. To ask, is there something behind the material?
Yeah, I like the idea. There's a concept of spiritual intelligence, meaning there's a separate intelligence within you, and its basic function is to deal with questions of ultimate concern, meaning what is the ultimate important thing in life? And answering that question is the purpose of your spiritual intelligence.
Yeah, 100%. Like, they have this concept in the world, there's IQ, which is your intelligence quotient. But IQ isn't enough to bring happiness. Then they say you need EQ, emotional quotient or emotional intelligence. You need to know how to relate to people. You need to know how to manage your emotions. But even that, the spiritual teachers would say, is not enough. Yes, IQ is great. Yes, EQ can help to contextualize and utilize that IQ, but then you need SQ. You need meaning. So I often talk about Viktor Frankl, who was in the concentration camps and survived it. And he wrote his book, Man's Search for Meaning. And I feel he has some profound insights. And in one point in his book, he says, we don't search for pain. We don't search for pleasure. What we actually search for is meaning. Because if you find pleasure, but it has no meaning, it will depress you. And if you encounter pain, but in that pain you see meaning, you will not only accept the pain, you'll embrace it. And therefore, it's not about pain or pleasure. What we really look for is meaning.
So, yeah, you're this 15-year-old who's read the Bhagavad Gita on your quest for meaning. And as I understand, you went to India around that time to find it. How would you say, like, I guess you were born in the UK?
Yeah, I was born in the UK, obviously from an Indian background, but Yeah, it almost sounds a little bit cliched, like, oh, you want to find spirituality, go to India, go on a journey. But perhaps there's something to it. India is a beautiful place. It has so much spiritual culture. And if I'm honest with you, Roman, I was looking to deprovincialize myself. And what I mean by that is I just needed to get out of my normal environment. And I would say that's a major part of self-discovery. You need to sometimes distance yourself from the narratives, the opinions, the expectations, the traditions that you grew up with. So yeah, when I was 21, I graduated. I went to India. I lived in ashrams. I traveled. And I realized there that I think my life is going to go in a different direction.
Beautiful. I think that's what I'm trying to do with Roman, go to India, the whole new world. But he has already been there twice, and I think he enjoys it.
Yeah, I've been to India. The first time I went to India, we touched down in an ISKCON ashram,
Yeah.
actually.
Oh, okay.
So we're quite aware.
Whereabouts was that?
That was
Govardhan Eco Village.
a year and a half ago at
okay,
Govardhan
right.
Eco Village. Our
Okay,
friend,
wonderful.
the monk who married us, is a monk there. So we went to visit him, and it was very interesting.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. Yeah.
Roman calls it's a Krishna land, Disneyland with Krishna,
Krishna-themed resort,
yeah,
basically.
Krishna-themed resort.
But yeah, it's nice there.
I have a question. Do you ever feel lonely? Because as a monk, I feel, what the life look like? Are you always alone, always doing sadhana, always meditating? I know you have been going to so many conferences, speaking events, but do you ever feel lonely?
And before you answer that, please explain sadhana, because not everyone.
Yeah, sadhana. Sadhana means your own spiritual practice. So we're up very early in the morning, and before the clock hits 9 o'clock in the morning, we're already spiritually tuned in to meet the challenges. So yeah, sadhana is spiritual practice. So yeah, loneliness. Yeah, we live in a world in which they say there's crowded loneliness. Even when people are surrounded by thousands of people, they feel lonely. Therefore, I would invite you to, and all our viewers, to ask, is loneliness from being alone? Is loneliness from being around many people? You could be lonely in both of those situations. Loneliness seems to be more to do with a lack of connection.
Wow.
So when Roman mentioned at the beginning in 2022, I took vows of lifetime renunciation. I became a Swami. And it said that the Swami gives up the smaller world of family life in order to embrace the whole world as his family. And so it's kind of almost counterintuitive that when you sometimes step away and work on yourself, then you actually emerge in the world and you can connect more deeply with others. Yes, I don't have a wife. Yes, I don't have children. Yes, I don't have a family. But I feel like when I go into the world now, I can connect with people on a much deeper level. I feel like I have so many deep friendships, connections. And I also appreciate my time alone, because I feel solitude is such an important part of connecting deeply with others.
So let's circle back a little. You were 21, you graduated from college. Instead of pursuing a job, you joined the ashram and you lived there as a monk. And I'm guessing in that monk lifestyle, there's a very well laid out method on which to reach Krishna consciousness. Can you describe a little bit that? Like, what's the path to Krishna consciousness? How do you do it while living as a monk in an ashram?
Yeah, we live a regulated lifestyle. So often I tell people time carries memory and location carries energy. And therefore what we try to do is every single day at the same time and in a similar environment, we lock down and we do certain things. And it brings a certain energy, it brings a certain momentum. So yeah, we live regulated lives. The first 4 hours of the day are dedicated to spiritual tuning in, I call it. That consists of meditation, that consists of reading, reflection. And then during the day, we all do different things. So we try to come out into the world and make a contribution. We try to provide people with solutions to the challenges that they're facing on an individual, on a community level. So yeah, it's a regulated lifestyle. But I would say regulation brings you a certain power. Right? Like there's what they call in the world now today I can't remember, maybe it's the 100-hour rule, someone can do the maths on this later on. But they say if you do something for 8 minutes every single day for 1 year, by the end of the year, you'll be better than 80% of people in that one thing. That's the power of doing something every day. And so sadhana, regulation, spiritual practice, and having a schedule brings superpower.
And was there any point where you were like, all right, this isn't working? Okay, I've been doing that. I've been waking up 4 a.m., 4 hours of meditation. Oh man, it's not taking hold. Or maybe there was a time then you felt like, oh, finally I got the hang of it. What was your assimilation into that like?
It's a great point. Let me answer it in this way. Imagine there's a graph, and it's like it goes up and down like this. And on this axis is days, and on this axis is feeling, right? So your feeling and your days, like Monday, Tuesday, and it's like this. What we do in times like that is we zoom out. And then what we say is feeling, years. And when it's feeling and years, it starts looking like this. Every single day there will be ups and downs. But through introspection and reflection, you can understand that overall, I'm moving up. Overall, I'm growing. Overall, I'm in a way better place than I was 2 years ago. And that keeps you going even on the days when you feel like it's a downer. And so I feel like reflection is also another superpower that we don't exercise. So every day I journal. And so who's going to say that they don't have doubts on the spiritual path? But my journal is where I look at those doubts, grapple with those doubts, and then frame those doubts within my bigger experience of life, and therefore I gain context and can deal with them appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously your graph reached the saturation point or something.
Yeah, it's getting there, there.
And because you're not just a monk, right? Now you're a Swami, and that's a big deal. That requires, a lifetime vows of renunciation, and I'm not sure many people know what it really takes to become a Swami and what that entails and how that even happens. Could you give us a rundown of that?
It's, well, let me explain it like this. The word Swami means master. It means one who's on a mission to conquer. So what is a Swami trying to do? The first thing a Swami is trying to do is conquer ignorance. So that means every single day we spend time with wisdom to see beyond the illusion, right? But then what we're trying to do is not just conquer ignorance, but we're trying to conquer emotions, unhealthy emotions, lust, greed, envy. And therefore, we have spiritual practice, like we talked about. But not just that. What we're also trying to do is conquer pride. Because even if you've conquered ignorance and you've, to some extent, controlled your mind and senses, you could become proud about that. But a Swami can't be proud. A Swami must also conquer pride. And therefore, we cultivate humility by always serving others. When you have all of those things, you've conquered ignorance, you've conquered your mind and senses, you've conquered pride. There's one more thing you have to conquer as a Swami. You have to conquer the heart of Krishna. And you have to conquer the hearts of other people. And so that's what a Swami is trying to do. So that's my job description. Beautiful. And to some extent, that's what we're all trying to do.
And what did you have to give up or sign up to, or what's more like the logistics of it?
Yeah, in every life you have to give up certain things. So yeah, for example, we take itinerant vows. So that means we keep moving. We stay in a place for a certain amount of time and then we move on. So we don't have a stable residence. So we take itinerant vows. We take vows of poverty. So we don't have bank accounts. We don't have all the good stuff. And then we take vows of celibacy. So we vow to live as celibate monks and honor all living entities rather than trying to exploit them for our enjoyment. And then we take vows of, many other vows of purity and so on and so forth. So these are some of the things that we give up, yeah.
I have a question very similar to this. So what's something people misunderstand about your path that actually annoys you? And I want to know from your end, do you face certain challenges? Because as you've said that you move from one place to the other, and I'm sure every place is not like India, Boston, or UK. So what are your thoughts on meeting different people and having different...
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't like to think of myself as someone who gets annoyed, but I guess things do annoy me sometimes. And perhaps one thing that annoys me or I wish would be different is people's perception of the Hare Krishnas. That sometimes I feel people see it as a cult, people see it as sectarian, people see it as Indian. And I feel sometimes people box it into a conception which limits what it is actually giving to the world. And if I am honest, I think sometimes even the way we as practitioners present Hare Krishna may also lend to people's perceptions. I think we also have to be honest about that. But the concept of a sect or a cult is that if you enter this, you're going to become distanced from the world. You're going to become disconnected. And I have to tell you, like Sneha, my experience is completely the opposite. I feel like since joining the Hare Krishna movement, I understand people better. I understand life better. I can deal with whatever happens in the world and what shows up on the news better. And I feel like I'm more involved and giving the best of myself to society, to the world, in a joyful way. And so, yeah, I wish people would be able to see that instead of like seeing it as something exotic, ethnic, sectarian, or, yeah.
Yeah, but also you are spending so much more time than somebody who is not a monk and just joining Hare Krishna to chant few hours a day.
Yeah.
But I feel they are in both the worlds. But in your case, you are doing this as a full-time role, I would say. But so how do you think somebody who is not a monk full-time or just joining Hare Krishna for their own way of practicing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's such a beautiful question, Sneha. Thank you. I'm going to give you a little bit of Sanskrit. Is that okay?
Sure.
Because it's nice to get a bit of the Sanskrit vibes out there. So the Bhagavad Gita is a very beautiful book. And it's a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. So Arjuna is a person of the world. He's a warrior. He has a family. He has responsibilities. And he kind of looks at Krishna and says, I think I need to escape from this life. I'm down. I'm down to be spiritual, but I don't see how I can, do that while living in the world. Maybe I should become a Swami. And in the beginning of the 6th chapter, Krishna says something very beautiful. In Sanskrit, it goes like this. Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karotiya sasanyasi cha yogi cha na niragnir na cha kriyaha. So, in essence, what this verse says is that who is the real Swami? The real Swami is not the person who renounces. The real Swami is not the person who has a certain dress or a certain lifestyle. The real Swami is one who utilizes every aspect of their existence in service to others. And so Krishna tells Arjuna, if you're living in the world, if you have a job, if you have a family, you are not a part-time spiritualist. If you see all of those things and utilize all of those things in connection to service. In other words, you're not parents yet,
Not
but
yet.
in the future you will be parents. And you can be a mom, or you can be a spiritual mom. You're an entrepreneur, and that's wonderful, but you have the opportunity to be a spiritual entrepreneur. In other words, you can take every single one of your responsibilities, connect it to spirituality, and basically be a Swami while still living in the world. Because it's not an external persona, it's an internal disposition.
Yeah.
And so I think the Bhagavad Gita invites all of us to think or to understand that spirituality doesn't have to be part-time.
Yeah, thank you so much. You mentioned about serving others. So my career has always been in working for charities, nonprofit,
Wonderful.
fundraising, working with children and women. And when I met Roman and I said, the whole thing I do is serving others, and he says, serving others? What do you even mean? And so I think that is how our journey also started of learning from both the worlds, where he introduced me the whole idea of individualism. And so that's very relatable to see that how I also introduced serving others to Roman as seva and all that concept.
Yeah. We met an ISKCON monk who married us eventually, and we talked, and he said something interesting. I was like, well, serving others, fine, but why? How does my job not do that? I provide a useful service. I am a teacher. I work with children. I teach them things. People pay me for this. The children benefit. I benefit. Isn't that serving others? Why does it have to be like a one-way devotion thing? And he kind of told me, like, the one-way devotion thing might have some advantages in that you get even more satisfaction from it, maybe, than doing it as a trade. You kind of get high on people's happiness that you serve them. Is that about right?
Yeah. See, what I would say, Roman, is it's not a question of something being service or not being service. It's a question of what is the degree to which your service is able to give that person a greater benefit. So as I said, like if you're a mother, of course that's service. My mom cooked every single day for 50 years straight. I mean, how can you say that's not service? That's beautiful. However, you could also give a greater service if while cooking those 50 meals or 50 years of meals, you also are able to share with your child higher values. Then you're a greater service.
Such as?
Higher values of like humility, kindness, truthfulness, so on and so forth. So now you've upgraded your service. Now you could be even a higher mother if you do the practical things, you do the character things, but then you give them SI, spiritual intelligence. Give them meaning, give them vision. Show them that there's something much more that you should be aiming for, that you have potential for. Then you do a higher service. So I would say to you, Roman, yeah, as a teacher, of course you're serving. But what about if you could encourage your students in their character? What about if you could encourage your students to think deeply about meaning, about purpose? What about if you could encourage your students to say, you guys are not just passive observers of the world, but you have an opportunity to go out there in the world and make it a better place? Then, so that's what we're saying. And by incorporating more spiritual values in what you do, however that may be, it becomes a more impactful way to contribute.
Thank you.
It's interesting that you phrase it like that. I'm a Montessori educator, so all that
Okay,
stuff
great.
about educating them about the purpose in life
Wonderful.
and their character, that's kind of baked into the job description. Montessori education is a spiritual path of its own. Montessori, she was very explicit. She's like, our goal is to help the children reach their fullest potential, and the teacher is on a spiritual path to basically reach their own enlightenment by helping the children reach theirs. So that's, I am kind of doing that. But then I get paid for it. Is that a benefit to my spirituality?
Yeah, and then you get
or
money.
not?
Okay, right. So let's deal with that bit now. So then you get money, right? So is money a bad thing?
I hope not.
What I tell people is you have money. Now, as long as you earn it with integrity, and as long as you spend it with generosity, the money actually becomes a beautiful asset in your life. So you have money now, and you've earned it with integrity. You showed up, you put in the hours, you gave the best of yourself to the kids, you did it with integrity. So that you got tick on that side. Now, what are you going to do with that money? It doesn't mean you have to give it all away. You utilize it, you buy your necessities, you have an appropriate lifestyle, and then utilize it for others. Generosity, charity. And if you do that, then you've spiritualized your work even more. Because it's not just what you've done, but the results of what you've done, you're also feeding that back into service.
That's so funny. Sneha's always on me about that I don't make enough money in my teaching job. The teachers don't get paid very much. And she's always like, why are you getting paid so little? And I'm like, think about the spirituality of it.
Yeah, it's
But I'm
funny
sure she
how-
wants to use the money for a good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, something like that. What do you want to use the money for?
Once somebody asked Roman, Roman, if you get 100K right now, what would you do? And he says, I don't know. And I'm like, why would you not know that? So yeah, he doesn't know. He doesn't need a lot of money to live. And I feel that's very interesting to see that how can you feel so fulfilled with such little money? And he's very happy. And even for jobs he would look for, he would never look for what money he's
What's
going
the
to
pay
get. Or
packet,
what is
yeah.
a salary. And I'm like, that is the first thing you should look. I'm like, no, it doesn't matter. As long as I will work with a great teacher and a good leader, that will be great.
And I think, but Sneha, I think it's wonderful. Each of us are different,
yeah.
right? So you're probably more entrepreneurially driven. That means so I'm going to introduce some terms here. In the Vedic schema, there are different personality types.
Yeah.
So you would be something like a Vaishya or a Kshatriya, which means like a entrepreneurial leadership kind of person. And then you have Roman, who's probably what we would call more Brahminical. And Brahminical just want to give knowledge. They don't really look for what they're going to get out of it. They want to teach. They want to educate. And all of those roles are necessary.
Yeah.
right? So yeah, unity and diversity. That's probably why you guys are good spiritual leavers together.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. We were also married at a Krishna temple here in Boston, and that was beautiful. We always ask our guests. So in the morning we had a ceremony at the temple, and in the evening we had a Russian party and dance and all.
Okay.
And I always ask my friends that what was the best part of our wedding, and they're like, the fire sacrifice that we did at the temple. And I'm like, oh, really? I thought it was too long. Like, no, that was incredible. All right.
Interesting.
So they really like that.
Yeah, there's something in these ceremonies which leave a deep impression on the heart, isn't it?
Yeah.
I personally love the fire sacrifice. Yeah, the Indian traditional marriage, there's a priest and you're throwing things in the fire to represent what you're giving up. And for one thing, it's control over your partner. Like, she's not really my partner. She's part of the universe, and she's her own independent being. I don't control her. I thought it was beautifully done.
Yeah, no, wonderful.
So I have another question. So yeah, you've taken these lifetime vows. What if you go back on them? Like, what is there like a protocol for that? Let's say tomorrow you, like, I took these vows of celibacy, but I'm in love. I'm in love with a woman or a man, and the Swami thing, maybe it's not for me anymore. How would you handle something like that? Or does that happen often?
It happens.
Wow.
Just like people take marriage vows, and then sometime down the line, they kind of like, I don't think it's working. You both took vows. I took a vow. And when we take a vow, we don't really think, but what if you're investing your heart, you're investing your mind, and in that moment, it feels right. And you know that if I give myself fully, in your case, in the relationship with each other, in my case, in my relationship with my spiritual teachers and divinity, if I give myself fully, this is not only is it going to work, it's going to become more and more beautiful. So I would say, I don't know if you would agree with that, you can tell me, sometimes the real work begins after the vow. Because that's when you've made the commitment, and that's when you got to give the best of yourself. And so I think it's like that whether you get married, it's like that whether you become a Swami, and who knows what will happen in the future. But that should never hold us back, right? Like we move forward and we try to experience the beauty in the vows that we've taken.
Yeah, I mean, we took marriage vows. If we were going to dissolve those, there's a whole legal process and, court things. There's similar things for the Swami who took the vows? And
generally, when you take lifelong vows of renunciation, they're never to be retracted. But if it does happen, then there's enough compassion, there's enough understanding, and there's enough broad-mindedness within the community to accept such an individual and help them to find their way forward if they can't continue in Swami life. But if we honor our vows and if we invest the best of ourselves, there's no reason why that should happen.
I'm excited to see where this Swami journey is going to lead you.
We'll be here in a few more years and we'll see. We'll take a rain check.
Yeah.
Amazing. I read you have founded Think Gita, and it talks about spiritual entrepreneurship. And as you said, entrepreneurial mindset. Humans would love to learn about that entrepreneurial mindset. Spiritual entrepreneurship.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, we've started many initiatives over the years. Think Gita is one of them, where we've tried to bring the Gita into the world, into the corporate world, into the government world, into the educational world, and try to show the world that everything we're looking for in self-development can be found within these ancient spiritual literatures. What does spiritual entrepreneurship mean? It means amplifying the spiritual message in places that the spiritual message wouldn't traditionally reach, and amplifying it in such a way that it empowers people to achieve amazing things in their life. And so our entrepreneurship is about helping people to think differently. Right? Einstein said, you can't solve the problems of the world with the same type of thinking that created them in the first place. And so our entrepreneurship is about how can we stimulate people to think about life, to think about the problems in a different way. And so, yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you.
And I hope, we have this spiritual themed podcast. Is what we're doing, does that qualify as spiritual entrepreneurship?
100%. Yeah,
Sweet.
You guys are out there.
All right, great. So on your path to Krishna consciousness, being first a regular monk and now a Swami, what would you say was the most impactful spiritual practice to get you to Krishna consciousness, to get you to a higher state of consciousness? Maybe, I don't know, is there one in the spiritual path that is the same one for everyone, or did one of them particularly work well for you? Like, I guess, what's your spiritual lever?
Yeah. There are many, but I think what sits at the center of all of them is spiritual friendship. We are basically a combination of the 5 people we spend the most amount of time with. And what I found to be the most profound, transformational, nourishing, inspiring activity in my life is spending time with spiritual people who are actually walking the talk. Spending time with individuals who are the living embodiment of everything we read about in the books. And so, if you want to walk fast, walk alone. But if you want to walk far, walk with many. And I would say, hands down, my spiritual friendships that I have are the most valuable asset in my life. Because when you spend time with spiritual people, you're not just getting information and knowledge from them. Their faith, their enthusiasm, their love, their compassion infects you. And I think that for me has been transformational.
And where did you find all these spiritual friendships? Do they come with the monk lifestyle, or did you seek them out on your own, or who are the 5
Well, that's why I went
people?
to India. I went to India to try to... I didn't want to just learn from people who knew things academically. Like now I'm at the Harvard Divinity School, and it's beautiful to learn from individuals who have studied these things for 50 years. But even Harvard Divinity School understands that when you learn from someone who's actually practicing this, who's actually living it, who's actually experiencing it, it has a different effect on you. And so that's why I went to India. I went to places to try to see, like, this is what the Bhagavad Gita says. Is there anyone who's embodying this? Right? So, and it's not just India. Like, it's not that the spiritual people are all in India. I think you can find spiritual people everywhere. And sometimes the spiritual people are unassuming. They're not the ones on podcasts. They're not the ones who have titles. They're not the ones who are the swamis. Sometimes they may be just the simple person washing pots in the kitchen, but who have a very real relationship with God. And then you spend time with them. So, as they say, seek and thee shall find.
And How has been your time at Harvard Divinity School? How spiritual has it been? Is it just people talking about God? Like, could God lift a stone, make a stone that he himself couldn't lift? Is it like academic, or are there genuine spiritual masters there? What's that been like?
Yeah, I think anyone who's been studying this material for decades and decades, I think it's probably pretty impossible not to be affected by it, not to be in some way on a deeper level than the intellect be moved by it. So all of the teachers that I've learned from, I feel like, yeah, they have their spiritual practice, and they have experienced many things in their journey. The academic method is such that oftentimes what the academic method is doing is trying to reduce something to sociology and psychology. So when they look at a text, or when they look at a theology, then they're not really looking for the mystical aspects of it necessarily, but they're looking at how can we explain this in sociological and psychological terms. I'm not saying all academia is like that, but often that's the approach. But then you get a certain type of academia which is like phenomenology, in which what they're doing is they're looking at people and they're saying, what is their experience? This person said they came face to face with God. What is it really, what's happening here? And then I think there is deep theological study as well. So I think in academia you find everything. Some studies will be very reductionist, and some studies will honor the experiences and try to understand it, and some will try to unpack it theologically. So it's been wonderful to learn what I've been studying for over 2 decades in this forum and see what perspectives they have.
That's amazing. Question, what is Harvard for you then? I mean, I understand you mentioned about this, but when you look back, what is something you're going to miss about the campus, about the life? For me today, whenever I go to the Harvard Yard, it brings me back the whole gratitude of the day of commencement, the day of orientation, and just walking that path.
Sneha's also a Harvard graduate. Yes, we don't know.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's an honor to be able to study at a place like Harvard. I'll miss being a student because in the last year, I turned up every single day to school and I didn't have to have any answers. I just had to have questions. And I think there's something very beautiful about that.
Yeah.
To just be passionately curious, to be inquisitive, to want to know, to learn, to discover, to explore. And I think this year has really ignited that back within me, to be always curious, to be a lifelong learner. And that's what I would probably try to continue. And who knows? I don't know. Maybe I'll be back in Harvard at some point. But I think we always continue learning, and just spending this year just being a student, I think has been amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. What would you say is the hardest part of being a monk or a Swami or living this kind of lifestyle?
Yeah, that's a hard one to answer. One difficulty is that we get so many opportunities, it's hard to say no. Like, we have so many opportunities to share with people, to go places, more countries than we can humanly visit, and more events than we can schedule into the calendar, and more people who have questions who we can't spend time with. And so I think the hardest thing about being a Swami is that the number of opportunities you get far exceed human capacity, and therefore you have to say no. And I don't like saying no, but
That's an amazing problem to have, actually.
I think that is also, as a Harvard student, I would always have so many things to do, so many
Right.
events to go to, and I would always have one thing to choose. And that is
Yeah.
something I felt as a student, that I always say no to 10 things because so many things happening at the same time.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
yeah. Being at Harvard itself is being a monk. I'm kidding. I have one question. That what is one belief that you hold that you think most people would strongly disagree with? Is there something that you have?
Oh, you guys have got some good questions today. I think the belief I have that I think most people really struggle with is that you can change. I think most people in the world have surrendered to the fact that this is who I am, and I'll always be like this, and I won't be able to change. I think even when people do things, I think deep inside they really believe that they're not going to be able to change. And my experience of practicing spirituality for whatever it is now, 2-3 decades, is that we have the ability to manifest incredible change in our character, in our consciousness, and in the contribution that we're going to make to the world. I believe strongly that at any point in your life, you have the power to say, this is not how the story is going to end. But it's so disappointing in the world to see that most people, I think, have given up on that. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that there's one thing that divinity gives us that divinity will never take away, and that's free will. Our ability to make choices, to choose directions in our life is our superpower, and I think most people don't realize that they have that. And so a lot of the work of what we do is just to go out to people in the world and say, you can change, and have faith in yourself. Because I think the world is riddled by self-doubt.
Thank you.
Very inspiring. I would agree with that. I've been changing every day, week. I feel like I've been 10 different people in the past 10 years. Piggybacking off that, I mean, I know ISKCON is a group movement and has a pretty worked out ideology, system of ideas. Are there any beliefs you hold that are outside that, or that they would disagree with? Any part where you disagree with the
As long as you edit this bit out of the podcast. Theologically, no. Institutionally, yes. Sometimes I think we're all living in a movement. We love a movement. It's our family. It's where we grew up. It's where we learn everything we know. But sometimes you feel like we should be doing this better. We should be doing this differently. And so I can't say I always agree with the policies of the Hare Krishna movement. I can't say I always believe in the opinions of everyone in the Hare Krishna movement. But theologically, I've never found anything within this path which I haven't been able to reconcile. I think there are certain things which are not intelligible. I say there's the rational, then there's irrational, but then there's transrational. And so I think there are certain theological beliefs which I can't rationalize, but which at the same time I can't say are irrational. I just have to accept at this moment they're transrational. They're just out of my conceptual framework to be able to grasp.
Such as?
Why we came to this world? We won't go into that one right now. That's a big theological... but I think it's a hard one to grasp. If we were spiritual beings with God in the spiritual world, why would we make a decision to come to this world? I don't think... I find it hard to rationalize that. At the same time, I can't say it's irrational. I just feel that right now it's outside of my conceptual framework to be able to find a resolution to that. And so I sit with it. And I get on with things that I can deal with.
Cool. I mean, you're a pretty high spiritual leader, and I'm sure people come to you for counsel all the time. And I don't know if there's policy as like renunciate monk Swami to give relationship advice. Sneha and I have been married 6 months, and we could certainly use some good spiritual advice.
You mean specifically relationship advice?
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. I would say the depth of any relationship is proportionate to the amount of commitment in that relationship. Like in Vedic culture, they say you don't marry the one you love. You learn to love the one you marry. Now, when I heard that for the first time, I was like...
Krishna did not marry Radha, and is that where it is coming from?
No, where it's coming more from the sense of love doesn't come from chemistry. Chemistry brings people together. Commitment is what actually helps them to connect. So, like, for example, in Vedic teachings, it said that the purest type of love in the world is the love of a mother for a child. That's not to say fathers don't have love, but the love of a mother is very unique because the level of commitment and sacrifice is unparalleled, right? Like, a mother... Like, you'll always be the child for the mother. Like, even when I go home to see my mom now, she treats me like I'm like 10 years old. I'm 45. But for the mother, it's like she's beyond all of that. So the idea is that because there's such a commitment on the part of the mother to serve, like the child could be completely, just whatever, but the mother will always continue to serve. So that's not to say in a relationship, like, whatever the person does, you should always... But the idea is that commitment. And so I think where there's a commitment to serve each other, to bring out the best in each other, to combine together to make a beautiful joint contribution, I think that's where actually real connection is made. And therefore, of course, I don't have personal experience, but many people tell me that the best relationships are where you're just friends, actually. You're friends trying to bring out the best in each other and trying to do something beautiful together. And that's actually, along with the romantic side, just that very deep connective side is essential.
And I kind of love that answer, but I think it's a fun topic of conversation because, obviously Vedic theology conceived thousands of years ago where you didn't choose who you married. It was like your parents arranged it or whatever. So chances are you maybe never even met the person before you married them. Then, that's good wisdom, You don't marry the one you love. How relevant is that to today's world where people have especially here in America. In India, they still have arranged marriages and all of that. Here in America, in the Western world, we choose our partners, right?
I think, like, if you take out isolated aspects of culture and try to implant them in a culture in which everything else is so different, it's just complete dissonance. So, like, for example, the idea of arranged marriage did work. But it worked where there was a whole nother culture around it full of so many other kind of dynamics of living where it all kind of integrated. But now if you take one thing, that's why, like, say, for example, even take the role of women, right? So in traditional Vedic culture, there may be a certain gender role that is given to women. And then sometimes what people try to do is say, well, that was the gender role. Now Sneha's in Boston and she's following the Vedic path. Therefore, she should be like this. But what that doesn't take account of is that Sneha's upbringing was different. Or at least your culture now is different. So what I would say, Roman, is that in spirituality, there are principles and then there are details. Principles must be preserved. Details must be adjusted. I'm a Swami. In Vedic times, Swamis don't even have hats. Swamis don't have mobile phones. Swamis don't drink from plastic bottles. They don't do any of that stuff. They live in a forest. But I don't live like that because that's not relevant. But what was the principle? That the Swami should be simple, the Swami should be celibate, the Swami should move. So hundreds of years ago, Swamis didn't go on planes. There were no planes, but if they were, they probably wouldn't. But I do. So the principles must be preserved, the details changed. So arranged marriage what's the principle of arranged marriage? It's to put the emphasis on commitment. So now, even if you didn't get an arranged marriage, you can still honor the principle, which is to be committed. Does that make sense?
Man, I wasn't aware that was the principle of arranged marriage. Great. Sneha, comments?
No comments. I am just struggling between these two worlds and embracing the all goodness. But yeah, marriage, just maintaining, and it's work. Everyday work, and I can see how when two different cultures meet, there is so many things which are beautiful, but a lot of work.
There's some frame collision as well.
Yes, so have been working towards it every day, I would say, but it has been great.
Yeah, and you learn from each other, right? Like you, like there's certain things that you learn from Russian culture and certain things you learn from Indian culture. And then I think that, to think that one culture is inherently spiritual and another culture is somehow not, I think it's just never resonated with me. I don't think everything about Indian culture is spiritual. And definitely everything about Western culture is not material. It's just a matter of understanding, how to appropriately position those elements in your life now.
Yeah. So growing up, I was also seeing people around myself doing puja, going to temples, doing arti. And I was also doing the same thing what other people were doing as I was growing up. And when I met Roman, he started asking me, why are you doing clockwise and not anti-clockwise? Okay. Questions like, why are you singing and clapping? And I did not have those answers. Why are you putting this red dot on your forehead? I did not have those answers. So I never knew the why aspect of it. Yeah. So is there something that you have that we could tell current parents to tell their kids about the meaning behind it, or what is the resource to even get those answers? Because I asked my mother the question that he was asking me. I asked my mother, and she's like, I don't know. So I do not really think that a lot of rituals that we do in India, people really know the meaning behind it. We are just doing it because others are doing it.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And I think not just India, I think many religions, they descend into that. They just end up doing the ritual without perhaps the spirit behind it or the knowledge behind it. And then it becomes an empty ritual. That's why study is so important. That's why reading is important. That's why, spending time with people, as I said, who are living the tradition, who understand the tradition is so important. We are living in the age of rationalism, the enlightened age, the scientific age, and increasingly generations will not follow just because it was the tradition. They want to know the why. How does this make rational sense? Right? So that will be the challenge, and it's a good challenge. Because when we know the reason why we're doing something, it's not just that we can explain it to others, we ourselves practice it in a much deeper, meaningful way.
True.
And for our Western listeners, Sneha threw out some Hindi terms, puja, arti. What's that mean exactly?
Puja is to worship,
Yes.
and arti is when you put fire and, how to say?
Yeah, so like arti is like, so let's take arti. Just explain that, because maybe some of our viewers don't know that. So if you go to a temple, then there will be a ceremony where they have a plate, and then they kind of, in a clockwise way, they start offering different things to the images of God. So what is this all about? So in the Bhagavad Gita, there's a beautiful verse. Bhumirapo nalo vayu kamano buddhirevacha ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakriti rashtadha. So what this is explaining is that the material world, ashta means 8, ashtadha. This material world is made up of 8 elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. So, what's happening in the Arati ceremony is that we are offering different items, and each of these items represent one of the elements of the universe. And so the idea of the Arati is to say that everything in this world is yours, and therefore I offer it back to you, and then I take it back and try to utilize it, knowing that I'm just a caretaker. It's not mine. So that's what it is.
That's exactly the kind of explanation Sneha would have liked about what the meaning behind that is, rather than you rotate the bowl in this direction and you got to do it because that's what we do.
True.
You mentioned that your greatest spiritual lever is your spiritual friendships.
Yeah.
To be around spiritual people who you want to be like and who are interested in the things you're interested in. I mean, I love that concept. And I know that states of consciousness, emotions in general, are contagious. So if you find a very enlightened person, they're in this like state of consciousness in which they're like bliss, serenity, wisdom, and just being around them, you kind of get a little of that contact high just from like your mirror neurons mirror their general physiology, and you get that contact high. That's why I think gurus are super valuable. You know, a person reaches enlightenment and he's in this state, and suddenly people flock to him to get a bit of that contact high.
Sure.
So I think it's great. And for a lay person, how would they best make use of that spiritual lever? How would they find these kind of spiritual friendships and surround themselves by 5 people who will really help them in their spiritual growth, short of joining an ashram, or does it require that?
Yeah, well, I think it's just like anything in life, right? Like you're an entrepreneur, so you hang out at conferences, right? Because that's where you meet other entrepreneurs who are in the trade. Right, you want to meet people who are good at a sport. You show up to the training ground and see who's putting in the hours and who's doing stuff there. So you want to meet spiritual people, go to spiritual places. That means temples, mosques, churches, holy places. That's where they tend to hang out. You know, that's where they get their juice. So I think if you expose yourself to environments where spiritual people tend to function in, of course, it's not a guarantee that anyone in that environment is necessarily going to be spiritual. but you're more likely, obviously, to connect with individuals who are on that path. And so, yeah, you don't need to join an ashram, but you can visit, like both of you did, places like Govardhan Eco Village or temples or yoga places or events, or tune into podcasts, or just find where spiritual people are experiencing and expressing their spirituality.
Question to that. So when I met Roman and I could see that, okay, he has written books on enlightenment, but he did not know much about India and spirituality.
Oh, he's written books on enlightenment. That sounds
Quite
interesting.
a few, yeah. The Western type.
And when he went to Govardhan Eco Village and he saw people chanting, and he started questioning me, why are they chanting? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
And I realized, I think people need to meet. I don't know if there are levels to enlightenment or there are levels to spirituality, but for Roman, I had a monk. When a monk's perspective shared with Roman, he felt, wow, this is incredible. But when he went to Krishna temple in Boston and saw people chanting or even singing bhajan, he said, what is it going to do to me? And I said, oh, throughout my childhood, I have been singing Krishna bhajan and I really feel good. Let's wait for half an hour, then we will go home. It's like, no, it's done, let's go. But I think it's different. For me, bhakti yoga is very, I love it. I enjoy chanting, I enjoy singing bhajan. But for Roman, having that conversation, reading Bhagavad Gita was something that he was really attracted to. So what is your take on how can I bring people, or even I myself, when we want to understand spirituality, like you mentioned, just go to spiritual places. But I don't really think going to spiritual places really helps. Sometimes I get to see what I don't want to see. Like for Roman, listening to bhajans.
He looks, he can't relate to it.
Yeah, he cannot relate to it, the language barrier and all of that. So even like we met this woman in India and she said, Bas Hare Krishna Japo, everything will be fine. And he's like, what? No way. Like, I'm not going to do any of these things. I said, Roman, wait. We'll find something for you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think it's such a great point, Sneha. And again, it's all beautiful individuality. We all connect to spirituality in different ways. I would say broadly there are 5 things. Spiritual wisdom, spiritual people, spiritual sound, spiritual places, and spiritual forms. These are said to be like the 5 most powerful spiritual connection points. And it's said that even one of these is enough. So for example, for Roman, it's more like spiritual wisdom, maybe spiritual people. Those are the kind of 2 things for him. Whereas for you, spiritual sound, spiritual environments, places, maybe even spiritual forms, the image, the deity is very inspiring to you. But for someone who's not been exposed, the deity is kind of like, what's going on here? Like, I can't relate to this. So I would say wherever you can connect somewhere on those 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's fine. And you'll find also some people, they love to sing, they love to go to the temple, but it's hard. They don't like to read. They don't like to get into too much of the wisdom. No, I worship. I this is what I do. I don't need to. Whereas others are more intellectually stimulated. So we're all different. And I think the beauty of Krishna consciousness is that there's something for everyone.
I agree. Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Beautiful.
And for Western listeners.
And you know, spiritual food everyone likes. Right?
Except if you're on a keto diet, then you might not.
Roman was on a keto diet for almost 3 years.
Oh, okay, right. Okay.
We'll address that in the keto episode. All right, so before we wrap up, Sneha threw out some terms that the Western audience might not understand: bhajan, bhakti yoga. Said something Krishna japa. Just quick translation, if we could.
I would let Swami do that. Japa is chanting. Bhajan is devotional songs. What else?
Bhakti yoga.
Bhakti yoga.
Bhakti yoga, yeah. Yoga means a process of connection or union with divinity. And bhakti yoga means the process of connecting with divinity through heartfelt devotion and love. So it's the yoga of love.
And I guess, yeah, it's the yoga of the Hare Krishna movement.
Right.
And as far as I understand, this is how I've always heard it. It's kind of a path to reach enlightenment through singing and dancing. Is that about right?
Yeah, primarily singing and dancing. When I guess the three things which are universal in the world is when you're happy, you generally do three things. You smile, you sing, and you dance. For me, like spirituality devoid of singing and dancing, even Nietzsche said, I will only believe in a God who knows how to dance. So people have a sense that spirituality is very sober, very serious, very still. But in the bhakti tradition, spirituality is an outpouring of emotion, spiritual emotion. So singing and dancing, yeah, that's a big thing.
This reminds me, early on in our relationship, Roman and I went to MIT. And I think Radhanath Swami was there. And Roman was like, no, I don't want to go. I said, let's go. We'll see how it goes. And he's like, oh, my God, people are dancing. He said to me. And just 10 minutes later, I'm seeing that Roman is dancing with Gauranga Das Prabhu on the stage. And I still have that video with me. And I feel like, look at him. That's what probably...
Yeah, it's funny you should say that, because that's what convinced me as well. Like, I was not one for dancing. I used to see the Hare Krishnas. I was like, I like them, but you never catch me doing that. And the fact that they got me dancing convinced me this must be powerful. This must be spiritual, because if they can get me dancing, there must be some power here. So, yeah, I relate to you.
Yeah, I did end up joining one of those, like, arm-in-arm dancing things. I think it's actually, I mean, I'm partially Jewish, not
oh yeah,
the
so you do a
religious,
similar type of dancing.
Yeah, the Hasidic Jews do the similar thing. Like basically almost identical. I'll just replace the Hare Krishna music with like Hava Nagila, and it'll be very similar. I wanted to ask, how useful or necessary is it to find a guru if you're embarking on a spiritual path?
Well, just like anything in life, we seek people who have gone through the same journey, people who have gone through the obstacles, people who have reached a certain perfectional stage. So yeah, it's vital in any sphere of life to have those guides. So yeah, it's always good to have a guru. Who is a guru? I say a guru is someone who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. In other words, who is a guru? A guru is someone who knows it, who understands it, who can answer your questions. But more than that, a guru is someone who goes there. He goes that way. He lives it. And the guru also shows it. They have an ability to explain, unpack, and help you to apply. See, because a book and a theology is, to some extent, abstract. Then you're Roman, you're living in Boston, you're a teacher, you have these issues in your life. Of course, you don't have any issues, but theoretically.
No.
So then you need a teacher to say, like, there's the Gita, there's your life, and that's how to transplant it. So that's what it is. See a teacher like that. A teacher is taking ancient principles and then helping you to apply it in your situation.
Yeah, I mean, one of the spiritual things I'm involved in is this philosophy where, like in the modern age, relationships have become much harder because they require choice and discernment and emotional maturity, whereas before you kind of got paired with a person and social norms and legality just kept you bound there. So now relationships require a lot more basically to be a much more spiritually evolved person in order to sustain them and make them well. I mean, like romantic relationships. So through this spiritual practice, I found Sneha and we got married. And yeah, I would say the woman who ran it, this woman, Catherine Woodward Thomas, she was like my love guru. And she just died. She just died a few days ago.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
So, yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Anyway, yeah, so other than having these kind of conversations, which is a great spiritual lever for, spiritual friendships, do you have a secondary spiritual practice that is also very powerful and that we could engage in and maybe our listeners will also
Yeah, sure.
take part in?
No, thank you, Roman, and my condolences. It's always difficult when someone who's so, central to our journey in life leaves the world. Feel a certain separation. In Sanskrit, the word for separation is viraha. But it's said that viraha has a double meaning. In Sanskrit, viraha also means vishesha rahasya unmilam. I'll explain. Literally, viraha means separation, but with this translation, it also means a very special kind of confidential meeting. And so what the Sanskrit theologians say is that in separation, if one is able to connect with the heart of that person, then in separation, you actually feel an intensified, special type of meeting with them. And so I just offer that to you in this difficult time, that when spiritual teachers leave from the world, we feel separation, but it's also an incredible opportunity to connect with them in a very special way that wasn't available when they were physically present in the world. So just something to think about.
Yeah,
and maybe you've experienced some of that.
It really gets you thinking like, oh, this person's gone. What did they really bring to the world,
You can
I'm going to miss
appreciate
that.
it,
That person, when they're alive, you don't really think that. You're like, oh, that was good. I liked listening
Took
to
it
them
for
for that
granted,
hour or
yeah.
two. But now you're like, wow, that's no longer going to be happening. And that was really something. I really valued that a lot. That person had something that maybe no one else has or few people have.
Yeah, no, thank
yeah.
you. Yeah, and in terms of a spiritual practice, Sneha mentioned japa. So we could try to do that for a few minutes if you'd like to. So as Sneha mentioned, japa is chanting. Sound is very, very powerful because if I were to play one of your favorite songs from like back in the day, as soon as you hear it, so many memories would come back, right? Like triggers. So sound has an incredible ability to awaken dormant memories. So mantras are spiritual sounds which is said that if we focus on them, then it actually awakens a deeper memory of who we are beyond these physical frames. And so this type of meditation is extremely simple. It's just the names of Krishna, but it's said that this mantra, by chanting it, by whispering it, and by focusing on it, and by drinking it into as a soul, you can actually awaken a deeper sense of the self. So we can try it out, and those online who are watching, I invite you just to maybe sit up a little straight and find a position which is kind of where you're not slouching, but at the same time there's no tension. If you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes, you can lower your gaze, and just take a moment just to try to be completely in the present and see if you can switch off from worries about the past and plans for the future, and just concentrate on your breathing. So we do 3 deep breaths in, and then we'll exhale. And when we breathe in, we take a deep breath in through the nose, fill the lungs, hold it for a few seconds, and then exhale through the mouth slowly. So let's do one together. Breathing in, holding, and then exhale slowly. And just do a few more of those yourself at your own pace. As you inhale presence. And as you exhale, letting all the tension go. One more. And letting it go. So we can keep our eyes closed and I'll chant the Maha Mantra 15 or 20 times. And nothing much to do here apart from just being present, breathe, and try to focus on the vibration of the mantra. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you so much.
Thank you.